So how do we do a regular episode? Like, do we not talk about goats and
Are we still innies? Are we outies? I don't know what I am anymore.
What is this background? I'm not in the office anymore. I don't know what's going on.
Where am I?
Hi and welcome to the We Need Roast podcast, and in between our ridiculously successful Severance spoiler specials, as it's almost the end of the month, as we record this, we thought it would be time for a catch-up on what we've been watching, other than Severance, in February. And joining me all the way from, well, not very far away, it's my OG co-host, David. David, how's it going, and what will you be reviewing this episode?
It's going okie dokie, Neil. I love how the Severance was good. The Severance was good. You maybe overplayed it a little bit with the ridiculous thing. But
in comparison.
We did, yeah.
In comparison to what we usually do.
I mean, if you put a percentage on it, it was like 500% better or something than I usually.
Yeah.
But no, I loved it.
Take the compliments and victory.
I did. Take the positives. That's it, man.
Keeping us humble. I like that, though.
I'm going to be reviewing The Monkey, Neil, which was the Stephen King short adaptation, which was also our secret screening. And screaming, and I'm also going to review American Murder, Gabby Petito, which was the Netflix documentary that released a couple of weeks ago. And also from warmer climates than Kent, Marie, what have you been reviewing?
I'm going to be talking about A Strange Young Man Called Dylan with a voice of sand and glue, one of the best lyrics ever written, by the way. And then I'm going to be crying my way through a Flow review.
We'll be here for you. Will be your emotional support.
I'll need the support.
Yeah,
I couldn't even write the note. As I was writing the notes, I was like crying.
I've got a box of tissues next to me, so I can hand them out. Don't ask why I have a box of tissues next to my computer. Just...
God.
It was Jose in our last episode that brought on the dong talk.
I don't even have a box of tissues next to me. I just wanted it for the joke. I thought of that joke beforehand. It's not even here. I have a joke thing, though.
Was the podcast this inappropriate before I joined? I was a fan, but I feel like I ranked up the degeneracy since I became permanent.
I mean, when Jose come out with 2-foot dong in the last episode, Jesus. Anyway.
I'd like to think I was the comedic relief of the podcast before you turned up, Marie, and now I'm
not
just
saying
boring.
Comedic relief, I'm just saying the degenerate of the group. I feel like I just...
David liked to think he was the
I like to
relief.
think I was.
You like to think he was.
I think I'm pretty funny.
Do you know how hard it was to no sell when it's just me and him, and or pretend to laugh at the jokes? And anyway, dear viewers, I will be talking what a lot of David's jokes are. I will be talking The Brutalist.
See, that's the kind of humor we get from Neil. It's just
whatever it said there, you was going to no sell it.
Yeah.
You was going to sell it. Yes. Anyway, tumbleweeds. And also, because Jose isn't here, because he's currently on a way back from a wedding, he was going to review Captain America Brave New World. So I'm going to review Captain America Brave New World. And at the end of the podcast, we're all going to chime in with our thoughts in a little spoiler section on Apple TV's The Gorge. Gorge ourselves on The Gorge. You're just not laughing at anything, are you?
That's because it's terrible. Every part... Look, Marie giggles a little bit at my stuff. Your stuff is just flat. Just flat, Neil. Sorry,
it's been a long week.
That's bullying. I'm sorry.
I mean, man. Yeah. If you think I'm being bullied, let me know in the comments.
You're funny, man. I'm sorry.
Well, David, first up, a film that you and me saw at the least secret screening I think we ever knew, because everyone knew it was going to be The Monkey. David, tell us what this monkeying is all about.
The Monkey is it's a film adaptation from a Stephen King short. It was produced by James Wan, and it was starring Theo James as twins. And it is essentially, do you know the monkey from Toy Story 3?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of having claps, Marie's shaking her head. She's not seen Toy Story 3.
No.
Well, every other person in the world. The monkey from Toy Story 3 with his little clapperdongs. Now imagine the little clapperdong monkey had a little drum, and that little drum, every time he drummed it, someone you know or someone around you dies horrifically.
Horribly.
Like the most horrific death you could think of, and quite hilarious as well. The most hilariously horrific death you can think of. That's what the film is. essentially. It is two young boys who get left this monkey by their dad. Dad just ups and quits. He's out.
Yeah, why didn't more happen with that? Like I was expecting more.
No, but I love the who the dad is.
The dad.
The sequel. Yeah, I mean, we always say it. He's literally the first person you see on screen.
And you're like, it's the Spider-Man gif where he's pointing and going, it's a Leo DiCaprio gif, isn't it? It's like...
so me and Neil went to see this together, but we don't sit together in the cinema because we don't actually like each other. But...
The smell, baby. Generally the smell.
Yeah. But I looked over to you when I don't know if you noticed me. I was looking over to you. I was like, up in your dark corner.
It is a brilliant opening scene cameo. Brilliant.
Who this actor was. Yeah, anyway, the monkey gets left to them, and then the two brothers just have the most horrific time since the monkey's been left with them. And there is a time jump, and in that time jump, Theo James takes over as the lead, playing the twins. Theo James for James Bond, by the way. I'm going to throw that out there. I can see that. I genuinely loved this film. I think in our immediate review, straight after the film, I said I wanted to give it 5 stars. Or like I said to myself, like 4.8. Now I'm probably down to like a 4.5 thinking about it. But during the experience, it was hilarious. The whole audience was laughing at all the right moments.
Yeah.
All the side characters and all the cameos that came up in it were really fucking good. They all landed. It is the funniest horror comedy I've seen maybe ever. I can't think of a funnier horror comedy.
Okay, if you're listening,
for me.
Drop us a comment and let us know what your favourite horror comedy of all time is.
Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, Shaun of the Dead.
Come on.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, all right. Yeah. All right, Marie. First thing she thinks of. Okay.
Also, Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, that's good, as well. Yeah. I put it up there with Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It was up there. It was up there with that. I genuinely thought it was really fun.
I got really. I mean, when I came out, I think I gave it a solid 4 straight away. I'm now thinking about it on reflection because I'm always a high scorer at the start. On reflection, I'm going to bring it down to a 3.5.
Don't do it, Neil.
But no, I'm going to tell you why without spoiling any of the details. So obviously, yeah, it's got big, strong Final Destination vibes. And we had this argument outside the cinema, and I was like,
it is Final Destination. 100%. It's a funny Final Destination, but with the monkey as a narrative device instead of it being death. It's a monkey that is essentially death.
Young Hal and Bill are really good in this as well, and you just kind of get that, like, Hal is Theo James's character, who's the one who's being bullied. Bill is the older brother who's
doing the bullying.
He's just an utter shithead. Like, you're watching it going, I hope the monkey kills this little fucker. You really are, because he's such an evil little shit. But then I like that because you generally don't get such, almost what I'd say, I mean, it's probably more extreme because it's a horror film. But you're like, yes, kids do say absolutely hateful shit like that to each other. And especially brothers. And you don't generally see that on the screen where brothers are so fucking horrible to each other. Do
you have a sibling, Neil?
No, I'm only child.
So, Marie, you have siblings?
Yeah, I've got an older brother.
My older brother.
Andy Samberg.
My older brother, he was a bit of a dick to me growing up. So I kind of related to Hal a lot. Maybe not as big of a dick, but he was a bit of a dick. He still is a dick.
And obviously, we are assuming David's brother doesn't listen to his podcast.
Man, I don't even know if he knows it exists.
For you, that's probably better because he might come and start bullying you again. A good shout out is their kid's mother in the early scenes, who's played by She-Hulk herself, Tatiana Maslany. And she is, again, like we said, all the smaller characters are so on point. She's so funny and inappropriate for what she tells like her kids growing up.
The cameos throughout it were I
wouldn't say she's a cameo. She's
no, she's not a cameo. No, yeah, but the cameos that do happen throughout it are excellent. And I'd say a lot of the cameos are the smaller characters that just sort of appear. Well, let's face it, they appear to die. A lot of them.
They appear to die.
A lot of them do.
Having said that, do you remember this scene was in a trailer, but you see the priest turns up and he's like this young guy, and he's like, he just takes a look over at the coffin and looks back. He's like, oh, fuck. And that got such a laugh in the cinema. But then, of course, when you've got another funeral later on and it's the same guy who walks up, and the audience just started chuckling before he even said anything. And like that kid, like the young guy who played the young priest, absolutely nails it because he's so funny so quickly. But I didn't know this, Marie. There is someone from Schitt's Creek in this. I did not recognize her in the film. Twyla from Schitt's Creek is in this. She plays the boy's aunt who they go to live with at a certain point. So what I would say, David, I think it falters a little bit in the last third. I feel like the motivations for where the story goes isn't strong.
That's where I dropped my points as well, was the final third of the film. I thought it was excellent leading up to that. Even the last death felt a little bit... Yeah. Even though it still got a laugh, and it was still funny, and horrific.
And I suppose because it's based on a short story, right? How do you drag it out, and how do you?
Well, the story is slightly different. I have read the book. Not the book. It's just
because we had this discussion. Did it have the same ending? And
I read it a long time ago, and it doesn't have the same ending. No,
Marie, I'm fairly certain you have no intention to ever watch this.
No, I mean I'll wait for a spoiler special to come out, and then I'll see what.
It's definitely
it piques my interest, but I don't do gore. Like,
then no.
Okay. Yeah, no, this wouldn't be for you. There's literally like a bag of body at one point.
A bag of body.
Just a bag of body.
It looks like, to be fair, it doesn't look like a person. It just looks like
you wouldn't know. Yeah, could be like spaghetti, bolognese or something.
I mean, like, if it's over the top, like kind of like in The Boys, like
it is. Yeah, it's like that though.
Then I can handle it, but also only to a certain point. But
have you seen any of the Final Destinations?
No.
Okay.
Why would I?
Well, because the build up to each death is very Final Destination, where you can see each element of it, like building a building to a surprise conclusion to how the death happens. A lot of the time, anyway, it sort of does that 2 or 3 times. Some of them are quite surprising. Some of them are quite like shocking. Like it happens very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like just like murder bonanza, like one after another, it doesn't really pique my interest. It's like it's not my type of movie.
That is a good name for an anthology film, though, isn't it? Next up on Murder Bonanza.
But if you're a horror fan, 100% watch it. And if you're a comedy fan, watch it.
Watch it. Yeah. So, from a killer monkey to a film that killed my enthusiasm for the MCU. No, I'm joking. I just wanted to make that really bad segue. Have Marvel entered a brave new world with Captain America: Brave New World? After a very well-intentioned but ultimately bland until the last couple of episodes Falcon and the Winter Soldier show that was used to establish Anthony Mackie as the new Captain America, he finally gets his own film. And all beforehand, I was like, this is at best, this is going to be a 3-star film. It's going to be absolutely fine. And that's exactly what it was. The thing is, the trailer gave away the main plot of the film, but not in a good way. So, like, as you in the trailer, as we all know, it shows Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. And you're like, oh, cool, when's that going to happen? And you're watching a film, and as it goes on, you're like, this is going to be the climax of the film. They've ruined where the film goes in the trailer. And you're just watching it going, oh,
is that to get bums in seats?
It's to get bums in seats. And there is all the rumours, unsubstantiated, that it was originally going to be about the Serpent Society and Giancarlo Esposito's character. But then it wasn't testing well. So it's like, let's make Harrison Ford the Red Hulk. And then they went in to do that. Now, of course, no one's admitted that. And as you know, and there's always reshoots on Marvel things, but it does feel kind of disjointed as you're watching it. You see from the trailer that, you know, Ford and Mackie, they're kind of like, well, look, I want Captain America to work with me. And you're like, oh, Ford looks dodgy. He doesn't look like a good guy in this, does he? He's doing that slow clap thing in the trailer. But the problem with it is, I was like, it's going to go over the same thematic stuff as the Winter Soldier and Civil War and just not do it as well. And that's exactly what happens. You know, you had all this brainwashing stuff with Bucky in those films, and this one it's Isaiah Bradley. And they didn't do him as dirty as I thought they would do from the film, because he was one of the best things about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show.
Is he the older?
He's the older guy.
Yeah, super serum in him.
Yeah. He was experimented on, but because he was black, he was just treated like shit.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
Mackie's cap really goes to bat for him in the show and in this film, and that was the stuff I liked. But I'm just going to kind of go through my like random thoughts on this, because again, the plot on this one, there isn't really much that it's not earth-shaking for the MCU in any way. But there was no Marvel fanfare at the start of the film, and that really annoyed everyone, apparently. I was just a bit like, where's the fanfare? So the reasoning they gave was, well, we want to put the focus on Sam more. And I was like, right, but every one of the films has the fanfare. But then, of course, what's one of the last shots in the fanfare? It's Steve throwing the shield. So I kind of get why that's not the last thing you want to see before you go into the new Marvel film.
But you can edit that out.
Yeah, it's just change it.
I mean, it's like with the first Captain Marvel movie, because Stan Lee died, so it was all just Stan Lee's, and that was like quite like last minute, but it was such a nice tribute. I actually did tear up then. So
yeah, I mean, they did a similar thing, didn't they, with Chadwick Boseman for Wakanda Forever as well? I think he got a lot more shots in that one. Anthony Mackie is brilliant in this Captain America, and like I said, he was on the Graham Norton show a few weeks back promoting the film. I forget who he was alongside, but he was so funny on there. He was so charismatic, and I was like, this is a guy I want to see being Captain America. But all you've shown us in the trailers is him being really stoic and boring. And luckily, he isn't like that the whole way through the film. He does get to have fun. What is at the heart of that is his relationship with Danny Ramirez, who plays Joaquin Torres, who is the new Falcon. If it was Falcon and Captain America, but these two as a series, it would be a brilliant series, because the chemistry between them, and also when you get Isaiah there as well, is brilliant. That is fun. It's entertaining. It's good. It's really fun. Also, they do briefly address the Eternals. And so everyone suddenly remembers that was a thing. And they use that as a crux to hopefully set up some more stuff for the later films. And where they, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there is this giant celestial corpse in the sea. We should probably address that in world news and stuff. The action scenes are fine. But like I say, the biggest problem it has is it gives away the Red Hulk thing. And at the end of the day, I don't think the film needed it. I was quite happily going along with it until where they go to. So it does definitely feel like it's been edited within an inch of its life to, oh, well, this isn't working, let's try this. Oh, well, this isn't working, let's try that. From an average new world to a biopic of a man who many have unfairly accused of being an average singer.
I'm just waiting for me.
No. It's just that I thought, because I know you're a massive fan of this.
I'm a
next
fan,
person.
But I'm not going to say average singer, but Bob Dylan couldn't sing for shit. It's not like that is just a fact. I'm a massive Bob Dylan fan, and I completely admit that's his genius was his lyricism and the writing of his songs. But yeah, as I said at the beginning, my favorite David Bowie line is David Bowie wrote a song about Bob Dylan and said his voice was a voice of sand and glue. And that is such an accurate description. I think about it every time. And it's also brilliant lyricism on David Bowie's side. I think it's one of the best lyrics ever written, even though we're talking about Bob Dylan.
And in case you haven't guessed, dear listener and dear viewers, Marie is going to talk about Mr. Bob Dylan, played by little Timmy Chalamet in James Mangolds' A Complete Unknown. Marie, the stage is yours.
This was one of my most anticipated watches of the year. I even put it at part of my top 3. And honestly, I kind of walked away a little bit disappointed. The plot of this movie is Bob Dylan's a dick. That's it. That's the plot of the movie. It's not there's not much to it. And that may be a bit too harsh. The acting is incredible. I completely agree. Every one of the performances is amazing. I think Edward Norton is actually kind of not talked about enough when it comes to this movie. I loved his performance in this movie. I really did. As someone who's very familiar with Bob Dylan, especially his voice and his singing style, Timothée Chalamet did a great job, as it is a very unique way of singing. There were some amazing cinematographies, shots. There's some amazing shots where I thought visually it's stunning. It looked great, great costuming, brilliant, the costume design, the Bob Dylan look. But where it falls flat is the script. Because this movie, and this is coming from a fan, is 90% songs. It just goes from montage to montage to montage. There was honestly, once again, Bob Dylan fan, too many Bob Dylan songs in this movie. It was just too much. It didn't give it to brief. It's oh, remember this song? Do you know this song? Do you know this song? Oh, we had to include this song. And it's just edit yourselves. Because it just every time they started talking, it's oh no, another song montage, and it just got grating. I love the beginning. That's the thing. It started off great. I love the beginning of him visiting Woody Guthrie in the hospital. And the first time he sings, that was like such a brilliant, intimate moment. And that was great. But then they kept doing it. And not only is this song a lot of montage, like a lot of him singing, it's a lot of characters just looking at Bob Dylan going, oh my God, he's so amazing. Like, that's it. Like, they're just like, oh, I can't believe how good he is. As someone who knows like a bit of his history, like early in the career, like he didn't win the crowd over as they portrayed in the movie. Like the owner who ran the Gaslight at the time, where you see Bob Dylan perform and you see John Byers perform, they actually never crossed paths there. That was like a movie add-in. But he says I think along the lines he says it was a complete fiasco. But we never see that. We never see Bob Dylan struggling. Like, yes, we saw his, like, they talked about how his first album failed, which is true. It was a flop, and how annoyed he was. But he kind of rebounded from it quickly. Like, you didn't see that struggle. Like, a big part of this story is, like, Bob, like, going electric guitar, and how, like, felt he was pigeonholed a bit in the folk music space. But again, you kind of didn't see it. There's that scene from the trailer where he's in the elevator and he's just like saying like, everybody wants me to be this type of person. But you never really get that sense. It's said, not told. Like you see he's kind of getting annoyed for being this like icon that is Bob Dylan, but at the same time, the song montages take up too much space. You cannot really actually see him going through that emotion and justifying it. And this movie also felt like a very repetitive. Like, I went into this like just knowing it was a Bob Dylan biopic. I didn't know what like story markers they were gonna hit. So like for me, I was just like, why the fuck are we at this folk festival again? Like, we're continuing going back to the Newport Folk Festival. Like it was song montage, Newport Folk Festival. Song montage, Newport Folk Festival. And it was getting so repetitive, and because it plays a big part in the final act of the movie, so I kind of understand now why they'd had that. But it just was repetitive, and also just from a design perspective, they never made those scenes, even though it was like different times, because it happened every single year. It was different at different times throughout Bob's life. Like, all those scenes looked exactly the same. Like, the crowds looked exactly the same. I feel like they just didn't change the clothes on the extras between those scenes. Because I know in film, like, you bulk shoot everything at a location, but it honestly did look like they were wearing the same clothes. I don't think this is a spoiler because this is a biopic. So I am going to talk about like the final time we are at the Newport Folk Festival, which was like this big culmination moment. And
spoiler.
It's not really a spoiler.
No.
I mean, it will be for me because I don't know anything about Bob Dylan's life.
But I mean, do you care that he performed at a folk festival?
I might do if he like gets shot or something at it.
No. Nothing.
He did get shot.
Okay. I don't know anything. I literally have don't know anything about.
Because this is just something like where the film falls flat for me because of them in fact missing the point. Because they make this whole big deal about Bob switching to electric, which was like a big faux pas at the time, because in folk music...
Or a folk pas.
Nice. Folk music, because it's acoustic is pure, and then electric is rock and roll, and it's like evil and like makes you want to do drugs. And that's kind of a big conflict throughout the movie. But what actually happened at Newport was that Bob's album, and I'm not sure this was clear in the movie, Bob's album had already come out at this time, and A Rolling Stone was already a really big hit. So a lot of people who came to that music festival were there to hear new Bob Dylan, didn't care about folk music, were disrespectful to the people who were playing folk music, and then were disappointed by the fact that Bob played acoustic on the first day, because that is accurate to the movie. See, Neil, that is a much more interesting plot point. That's why I bring this up. That is a much more interesting plot point. This whole like new fans versus old fans. This everyone has that friend who goes, well, I liked them before they became mainstream. Like this is like a big part of being a fan of music. Like you have gatekeepers who like gatekeep music and say like, oh, I like the old stuff better. Oh, I like when this is better. And that is just such an interesting plot point that I wish the movie would have capitalized on more.
The problem is, though, like I said beforehand, I've always mentioned I'm not really a music biopics guy unless I'm really interested in the person the film's about. So, if they ever do a Nirvana one, I'll begrudgingly be there. Any sort of my bands that like I grew up with, they're not around anymore. And what I liked when I heard about they were making this is like, okay, well, James Mangold, brilliant director, Ford versus Ferrari, Logan. He's been on quite a good run over the last couple of years. Walk the line. And that's the problem is he did walk the line. And I've never been able to take a music biopic seriously after watching John C. Reilly's Walk Hard, which spoofed Walk the Line. And I saw that before I saw that. And this almost felt like that in parody again in places. It's the whole rise to fame and then acting like a bit of a dick. But what attracted me to this was that it only focused on 4 years of his career. And I knew that going in. So I was like, okay, so it's not going to be the usual music biopic of the rise, the fall, all the drugs, and then falling back down again. And then, oh, I'm older and I'm more wise again now stuff. But the problem with not doing that in this film is all you get from, and it is, I agree completely with you. Chalamet's brilliant, and the fact he learnt the songs, he sings the songs, he plays the guitar really well. It's a very surface level performance. You don't really, bar learning a little bit about his background, where he like starts lying. He'll never tell anyone really where he's from, and he's trying to create and craft this mystique about himself that he doesn't want people to know where he's from, and that's really it. And then he, like you say, he's a dick to his girlfriend. Then he's a dick to Joan Baez, and he's just. Oh, it's so hard being Bob Dylan. I'm too. It almost felt like all they wanted to portray was, Bob Dylan's really cool. And like you say, everyone's just staring at him, going, "Wow, Bob Dylan, man." And yeah, that's the problem with the film. Having said that, because of the musicianship and the performance side of it, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And as, like you say, as each song performance kept coming up, and I wasn't going, "Oh no, another song." Every time I was like, "This is really fucking holy fuck, he's really good." Wow, Edward Norton. He's honestly, holy shit, Edward Norton can play the banjo and he sing really well. And I've got to shout Monica Barbaro, who I'd only ever seen in the tiny role when Top Gun Maverick, doing literally next to nothing. And she was brilliant here. I mean, this is like a star-making turn for her. I mean, and it is, because she's been nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this role. Of course, she doesn't apparently look anything like Joan Baez did at the time. But again, she's playing the guitar, she's doing all the songs. And she's really fucking good as well. I think she almost eclipses Chalamet in this because she's that good. And you're not. And again, I wasn't expecting that from her. I didn't. I barely heard of the actress before I saw the film, and then she's just there, and I was like, "Holy shit, she's really fucking good." I think Dakota Fanning gets a little bit shortchanged as his like troubled on and off again girlfriend, who is definitely not based on the real person, whose name they changed really slightly. Yeah, I think for me the performances and the musicianship carry the film. So sadly, I don't see it winning any awards at all this year.
I've just listened to the both of you talk about it. I still don't get what the point of the film is.
Bob Dylan is cool, and a bit.
Bob Dylan is cool.
That's that. Yeah, but that's the film. That's the point.
Film. That's exactly it. That's what I'm saying.
As somebody that doesn't like, I'm not a big music person anyway. I could name probably one Bob Dylan song. If I'm honest.
Is it Blowing in the Wind?
It probably is. That's not selling the film.
Yeah.
I don't.
No.
What's the point of it? What's it trying to say?
Nothing. That's the thing. That's why, I brought up Newport, because this clash of new versus old music, new versus old sound, that is interesting. And to be honest, I honestly don't think I would be as hard on this musical biopic.
If you wasn't a fan?
No. If I didn't see another musical biopic at the start of the year that I had zero interest in, I do not like the singer, and I had the fucking time of my life, and that is Better Man. That was a way better musical biopic. It was just, it had something. Like, it tried something new by having the lead character being a monkey, but that's the thing. It's tried something new, where this is, like, so basic. And, like, we mentioned Walk the Line earlier as well, and, like...
It's traditional filmmaking, isn't it? It's traditional
filmmaking, but also, like, every time Johnny Cash was on screen, I was just like, well, there's the more interesting person. Like, I don't know if you felt like that as well, but every time I saw him, I was just like, well, that's the more interesting story here. Like, and at the time, I didn't even know it was the same people. And can I just say, Walk the Line, actually, I've never actually seen it fully because the table saw scene traumatized me as a kid, and I've never been able to see it since.
Have you seen Walk Hard, though, the spoof with the chainsaw scene?
No.
Which I imagine is the that film's version of that. Musical genius down the years in terms of songwriting and performance. But is his life actually that interesting for a biopic?
That's the thing. Like, and he's also a very private person. So, like,
and that comes across actually in the script, I reckon, because you don't learn anything about him. There's no insights into him, really.
But I mean, that's on purpose. Like, it's the title of the movie, A Complete Unknown. It's not just a line from a song, but it's actually the point that he is a complete unknown. Like, they only mention that his real name is Robert Zimmerman, like, once. But I don't really matter. Like, I don't mind that. Like, I don't think, like, a biopic should have, like, oh, my troubled childhood, yada, 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 yada. There, like, it could, like, start. It's just, like, if you're not a Bob Dylan fan like David, there's, like, nothing to pull you in here. Like, it's...
I think it was the performances that pulled me in. I was like,
the performances were great.
And did you see that Shyamalan, he actually performed Bob Dylan's songs on Saturday Night Live recently?
Yeah.
And they let him pick whatever he wanted to do. So, like, all the network was like, oh, is he going to play it? And he did two of the deepest deep cut B-sides you would ever not know of his as well. Because it's like, hey, he's got free reign. He can do what he wants. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
If Chalamet does end up winning it, actually, no, the fact that he's nominated does make me want to watch it just for his performance. If he ends up winning it,
it's still worth a watch. It's just, like, to me, it was like missing something.
I think you might enjoy it a bit more, David. I think you might enjoy it a bit more.
I have a question. Why is it predominantly musicians that are getting these biopics?
As opposed to
actors, literally any other famous profession? Like Keanu Reeves, I'd love to have a story on Keanu Reeves.
I think the thing is, actors, Hollywood doing films about Hollywood, unless it's about a great tragedy or a rise and fall, no one's really interested. So, like Keanu, I don't know, for example, Keanu Reeves' story, there's a lot of personal tragedy in it. But I don't think he wants to tell that story because he's quite a private person. So,
but it could be somebody that's already passed or something, or a story just in general that happened, anything.
We've had in the past. I mean, we had the Judy Garland biopic a few years back.
You do get a lot of biopics about older actors, David, but you don't get ones about more recent, I suppose. And I think enough time has to have passed before you can actually.
Yeah, well, it's the same.
I see what David is saying. Like, especially in the last few years, I think ever since Bohemian Rhapsody, the musical biopics has just been like.
I mean, you had that terrible Amy Winehouse one.
Oh God, yeah.
There was one Whitney Houston one we watched that was very good.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people think like, oh yeah, this is definitely Oscar material. Like, this is a shoe-in for awards. That's why a lot of people are attempting it. It's almost playing it safe. They're like, okay, we don't need to do anything groundbreaking, and it's like, especially just like picking like, especially if their songs are popular.
And to be more cynical, if as you're doing a film about a famous musician, the album sales are going to come up again, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to re-release all the music, and that's going to make more money again.
The amount of people who were introduced to Queen through Bohemian Rhapsody kind of broke my
sickening,
heart.
But
a little bit.
That's not okay. Yeah.
That's not. I know should have known. Yeah. Like, it's.
Do you know what though? You're right. On musical biopics, you said Better Man's the best one you've seen this year. I haven't obviously seen, but last year we had Kneecap, which again, as musical biopics go, I've never seen a musical biopic about a band that are literally still at the start of their careers. And what threw me, and I think I mentioned this on the pod before, what absolutely amazed me at the end of the film was that they showed you the real life footage and scenes that you've just seen in the movie. And it was like 2-3 years before the film was made. And it was like, not a lot has happened in that time. But again, the style of that film and the fact that it had something else for it, like it was all about Irish language and the fight for, Indigenous languages. But it was a brilliant film. honestly, as I said at the time, it reminded me of Trainspotting in the ways of the music, the attitude. You see so many films try to capture what it's like to be young and what the youth is like at the minute, and they're just written by people our age. Well, sorry, mine and David's my age. I forgot I'm with the young people tonight. Yeah, they're written by like old guys in their mid-40s, and you're like, you're not authentically given a voice to what it is like to be a kid these days. And when you see Kneecap, you're like, yeah, I can believe it's absolutely like this. And it was just the realism came through for it. And it didn't judge them for all their drug taking and their bad language and all that kind of stuff. It's like, this is who they are. Here's a story. Enjoy. And you do, because it's fun. We kind of got off the point of Chamelet there and a complete unknown.
It happens when you're on the podcast, Neil.
Yeah.
It happens when you're on the podcast. David goes, I've got a question.
I was going to say, sorry, my favourite one, Fisherman's Friends, Neil. Fisherman's Friends.
The Mints or the film?
The film.
That shows you why David and music is not a thing, apparently. So, David, what is the next thing you're going to tell us about? What else have you been watching in February?
We and the wife were really enjoying the new Netflix documentary that dropped. Well, I say we enjoyed it. It's a bit weird. It's about a murder. We appreciated the American murder documentary on Gabby Petito. Which was a huge case in the media only as late as 2021. So it's not that long ago. So it's a very recent, modern American murder sort of story that's happening, a documentary about her and her. I don't think it's a spoiler.
I was about to say, David, what is the story? What is it?
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary, yeah. So it's a documentary on Gabby Petito and her boyfriend / fiance, who were kind of nomads. They bought a van. They sort of had that lifestyle where they grew up, had a normal life like Marie, or like, I don't know why I said just Marie there. Like, you're the only one that's had a normal life.
What secrets are you guys hiding from me? Also, what kind of assumption is that? I haven't ever told you about my childhood.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it would be just like if we were young and just out of school, and we just, we wanted to live that traveling lifestyle. So we're going to get a van, and we're going to take this van, and we're going to convert it into our life for the next year or 2 years or however long they want it to be, and we're just going to travel America. We're going to travel America in this van, and it's a real like lifestyle sort of story at the beginning where they wanted to do this. They had this dream, and Gabby had this dream of being a blogger, and she wanted to be a YouTuber. She wanted to be a blogger, and that's how she wanted to make her money, by being this influencer, essentially traveling America. And some of the places in America, I didn't realize how gorgeous America is. Some of the locations. Because you see,
well, you think a lot of them don't leave. It's amazing. You've got every kind of location you could have over there. I've
been to LA. I've been to Florida.
No wonder you think America's shit. Yeah, no wonder you think America's shit.
But some of the places that they visited on their travels were the most stunning. I mean, they didn't visit Alaska, but they were just the most stunning places ever. But the thing that made this really interesting to watch as a documentary is the fact that she blogged a lot on the build up to her death, sort of. So, and then there was a lot of footage from like the police incidents that they had building up to it, on the build up to her death. And they were telling the narrative of the story was very clearly driven throughout, painting her boyfriend as the murderer before you even find out that he was the killer. Kind of.
So
spoilers.
He was the killer.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's just in the trailer. Right. it's very recent news. And I wanted to ask
common knowledge.
And I wanted to ask Jose this because I wanted to know how. I didn't know about this story at all. It probably was in the UK.
I take it they were both American then, yeah.
Yeah, they were both American. Yeah. I'm sure it was in the UK, but I'd not heard of the like this to the extent that it seemed to be portrayed on the American news. It blew up. Sorry, Marie.
No, I was going to say I had.
You'd heard of it like before this documentary.
The story, like I was following it since she went missing before her body actually turned up. I'm sure that this goes in the documentary as well because I haven't seen it yet. Is that a lot of ways they solved the murder was actually through social media.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
A lot of people sort of helping out, get with footage that they've got of the van that's at a specific location, so they're able to say that the van was at that location at that time and stuff like this. A lot of people helping out on social media. Yeah, there was a massive wave of influence that they were sort of drummed up by both sets of parents. So she had two parents, essentially. She had, because her parents separated at a very young age when she was 6 months old. So she essentially grew up with two sets of parents, and they both sort of banded together to drum up this massive media cry for her. Yeah, and like Marie said, there was this huge movement online and fascination with the case to try and find her, to know what happened to her. And during this time, her boyfriend also goes missing, and then that becomes a thing in itself as well. And the one thing that the documentary does for me, which is, I think, a bit of a negative, is how victimized the parents are portrayed of the son, who's the killer. So it's obviously painting, you're only seeing ever one side of the story, and it obviously paints them as they're currently free, they're not incarcerated, but it feels like the parents should be in prison for withholding information from the police the entire time, withholding information from the police. And it feels like they should be in prison. So I feel like there's a story there that's not being told in the documentary that should have been covered maybe a little bit better. Because I feel like out from this documentary now, those parents are going to get, like, if they weren't already getting awful harassment from people that knew about it, now they're going to get absolutely fucking shat on, because they just come out of this like the most awful people, and they could have made it a lot simpler and a lot quicker, and they didn't, because they were trying to protect their son. So that, I mean, it's awful what they did, and if it is how they portrayed it in the documentary, then they should be in prison, probably. But I feel like there is a second side to that story.
Would you say it's a good documentary overall? Like you say, it's
100%.
Balanced. I think it's balanced in the way it explains the story.
I think it's not balanced. It's not a balanced documentary. It very much has a narrative that it wants to say, but but he's the killer, and it's building up to sort of showing the story. It's more of a timeline documentary, showing timelines of everything happening on the build up throughout it all, and it does have a very impactful message. Two impactful messages at the very end. One being, why are we only interested in white women going missing, but we're not interested in all these other women of different colors that are going missing throughout, which is a very small message that they're saying, I think, which is the smaller message. The bigger message that they're saying is the impact, like the importance of domestic abuse, domestic violence, being in a toxic relationship, and all the warning signs and everything that build up towards it within that environment. I say that it's a smaller message for the colored, because I feel like Netflix didn't want to talk about it much, because they're doing the exact same thing and making a documentary on the white girl that's gone missing, and not making it about hundreds of other colored, people that got missing, because ultimately they don't think it's going to sell.
No one cares. They think no one's going to care. Exactly.
Yeah. They did something very similar. I think it's, what was it? How to Murder Cats, or The Man Who Murdered Cats documentary on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, about
I didn't see that.
He killed just for the pageantry, but then Netflix made a documentary about it, talking about it, and that was all his aim. So it was just like, again, the Spider-Man meme, where you're just like.
The interesting thing on it, so you can actually view Gabby's blog. She on YouTube, she had one blog with video that she posted to her YouTube channel. It is called Nomadic Static is her YouTube channel, and the YouTube video is called Van Life, beginning our van life journey, and you can watch it now. It's currently got 10 million views on YouTube, and she has 226,000 subscribers. And I think at the very end of the documentary, it says that before she died, the video had 500 views, something like that, and then after her death, it had blew up and had 8 million views. Now it's on 10 million views, which I felt was quite like, I felt like it was saying her life, like her dream and everything, wasn't realistic, and it was her death that made it realistic. And I kind of didn't like that message, at the very end of I didn't, because it's saying that
they're trying to celebrate that like as a positive. Oh, and now 10 million. No,
because
that's horrible, man.
It's like no, she might have blown up, without her death. But the realistic element is it wouldn't have, and it's But I think it's lovely that people are, and I hope that she, the family are getting that money and they're doing good with it or whatever from this video, because I'm assuming it's made money. But I felt like they're saying that she's only now. I didn't like that message at the very end.
I mean, I think the larger question to the Netflix, kind of from what because you watch a lot of true crime docs on Netflix, because obviously that's what your wife's career is, dealing with stuff like that.
There was a news article that came out today that I can share with you about a murderer in Margate that she helped. She was working on the case on. She helped put away for life.
I'm going to Margate soon.
Yeah.
Well, he's gone now.
He's in jail now. Yeah. Number one liked comment on her video on YouTube is which was posted 3 years ago. See you guys when Netflix uses this as a documentary in 5 years, and that was posted 3 years ago.
That's grim.
And I feel like that's a sort of a weird reflection on where we're at. That was, that this person very accurately predicted that Netflix would see. I can see profit in this story. I don't know how that works as a business model for them.
No, but it does, doesn't it? The true crime business is absolutely massive. And it's true. If you Googled on Netflix, true crime doc, how many of them would be about a white woman disappearing? And I guarantee you, because it's not my genre, I guarantee it'd probably be about 60, 70% of them, if not higher. I'd imagine.
That is the smaller sort of story that they're saying. The smaller point that they're saying is that a lot of the media cry is about white women and not about people of color going missing. The much bigger thing is on domestic violence, domestic abuse, toxic relationships, the warning signs for that, and the footage. What makes the documentary though is all of the footage from her blogging and her time there, and also the police body cam footage that you see of her being pulled over, of them approaching her door and looking for her, like all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it, to be honest, man. It sounds grim, and
it's not actually. It's not as grim as you'd think it is. It's quite.
I'm raising my eyebrow.
The footage is of that she's captured. It just looked like it's not like the most gorgeous footage in the world. It's not the most but just America's gorgeous. Yeah. And she's there. She's living this lifestyle. She's seemingly living the dream, and it's sort of a warning that like people that you see on Instagram, these Instagram couples, it's all bollocks. All of it is bollocks. That's not what people are like behind the scenes. That's not what's happening. That's not their life. That is their life in a snapshot of that moment that they've probably faked. It's all bollocks.
Well, that would have been a better angle into the story for me.
That is it. Well. That is it. That's what the film's about. That's what the documentary is about. That there's this darker story behind people's lives that they're presenting.
Marie, what do you think? Are you gonna maybe watch?
I'm not sure, because I'm already quite aware of the story. Like, as I said, because I followed this while it was happening. I do think it's a good lesson to learn that all the internet is bollocks, as David put it, because like people are edited on the internet. They choose what they put in front of you. But yeah, I used to be like someone very much into true crime, and now I'm not anymore, because I kind of realized like the people who are behind that harm and the families that go through that, and that whole like putting a spotlight on it and
making them relive it,
making them relive it, for profit, profiting off of it and stuff like that. And then like I think what's in a way fascinating about this story and maybe also the reason why, to be honest, don't need to see it, because it's been solved. Like it's like there's no mystery behind it anymore. Like it's kind of clear. Like obviously we never know what goes on between two people when no one's watching, but like this like has a clear beginning, middle, and end to like other than like other like cold cases that are out there. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like Netflix documentaries can be hit or miss for me. Sometimes they like lean very into it.
The pod, one of the first things we talked about was that hotel where they found a woman in the in the water tower.
Yes,
it was like
yeah.
hotel.
That was like the world's worst hotel, wasn't it, or something like that? One of the world's worst.
It wasn't that. It
hotels
had a better name. But the
no.
bizarre...
It was known as one of the world's worst hotels.
Yeah, somewhere in LA, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The interesting point on that was the guy who made it. It was a guy called Joel Berlinger, who made 3 of the best documentaries on crime you could ever see. Like back in the day, so there was a case. He made a film called Paradise Lost: The Child Murders at, I think, Robin Hills. And it came out in the early 90s. And it was about 3 teenage heavy metal fans in the Deep South who were accused of murdering 2, like an 8 and 10-year-old. And there was no physical evidence. There was no corroborating evidence other than they're the 3 weirdos in the town. And they would, like, draw pentagrams on stuff and wore black and listen to devil music. And, and they got put in prison. And one of the kids was, he had learning difficulties. And of course, what did the police do? Get him to confess and say the other 2 did it. The oldest kid gets put on death row. Again, it's one of these documentaries where you're watching going, well, the stepdad looks very dodgy here as you're watching it. And it ends with them still in prison, still on death row. You're like, holy shit. The filmmaker went back, did a sequel, seeing how the appeals process was going down the line. And again, finds out more information about who it could have been. And you're like, okay, it could have been this person. It could have been that person. But it doesn't. Its main narrative is these boys are innocent, 100% are innocent, but we also want to find out who's responsible for it. So the film was working both ways. It was the justice angle and trying to get this person off death row, but also actually find out who murdered these boys. He did a 3rd one years later, and even then, it still didn't clear it all. And bizarrely, of all things, Peter Jackson and his wife then become aware of the story from those documentaries, made their own version of the documentary about it, and they got all these big celebrities in, and they got loads more eyes on the case, and they finally got the guys released. That shows you the power of a documentary could actually save someone's life there. And there was a famous one that we studied at college called The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris. Similar thing, a guy who was on death row. He went in, investigated the case, made a documentary, and got the guy cleared and off death row. That is the power of filmmaking, But since then, Joel Berlinger has gone to Netflix, and he did. He's just done. I mean, I remember when we went to watch that show. I was like, "Oh, this guy's done it. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be really good. It's going to be and it was just, it was just the lowest form of base entertainment, which really annoyed me. And it's like Marie said, I didn't like it because it was kind of hyping up and celebrating and profiting off this murder and misery, and that's the side of true crime I'm not a fan of. It's like, you remember when you said, David, about we was watching you watched Monster, the Dharma story, and you said, oh, no, it is from the victim's point of view. I said, but I don't want to watch a show even from the victim's point of view. It's too heavy, man, for me in some ways. I think for me, entertainment has got to take me away from that kind of stuff. You really need to be in the right mood to watch that kind of things.
Weirdly, that's the mood my wife's in all the time, which is frightening. She loves her serial killers. As
we said, David, if you ever disappear, we know she did it, but we'll just never be able to prove
getting
it.
Back to Gabby's story, I think if you're interested in documentaries, you should definitely give it a watch. 100%. It's worth it. She deserves it as well. She deserves you to know what happened, for people to know what happened to her.
And moving on, our next film I'm going to talk about isn't a barrel of laughs either, let's be honest.
We've reached like a dark point of the podcast here.
The podcast is going to take a lift upwards after this film, though.
Well, I think the 3 things we've done so far have been pretty, we've done a monkey that kills people very horrifically.
But that was funnily.
But
that was a funny monkey. He was a funny monkey.
Killer monkey.
And then we've done
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, who's just a dick, apparently.
Yeah.
And
Murder in a Van.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Brutalist quickly, and that is from former child actor Brady Corbet. So he was in the Thunderbirds live action film about 15, 20 odd years ago, which no one remember. I don't remember it at all. Did you remember?
I remember it. McFly did the music for it, or Busted did the music for it. One of them did the music for it.
He was the lead actor in that film. I had no idea at all. But this is what we like to call an Oscar film. Adrien Brody, who really seems to like his post-World War II films, and this is a story of, and please, Marie, correct pronunciation for me.
Oh, I feel like I want you to attempt it first, and then I'll step in.
Laszlo Toth?
Yeah.
Hey!
That's the easiest name. Yeah.
I was going to say, that sounds like a pretty easy name to say. I was expecting something really difficult.
They did say it quite a few times in the film, so I was
It was Busted that did the Thunderbirds theme tune. Okay.
But yeah, so Laszlo Toth, he's a former feted architect from Budapest who is now reduced to taking whatever job he can to make ends meet, while also trying to arrange passage for his wife and niece to travel to America from Eastern Europe. And his wife's played by Felicity Jones. Elizabeth. That was bad, wasn't it? Elizabeth, right?
Elizabeth. Just say Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Felicity Jones. It's at this kind of time when he's kind of working like nothing jobs here and there that he becomes acquainted with Guy Pearce's rich industrialist, Harrison Van Buren. And the two of them begin this really kind of tempestuous work relationship. Now, I don't want to get too much more into the plot here, so I've kind of got a few notes about the film. The film is 3 hours and 35 minutes long and split in two with a 15-minute intermission.
It's too long, man. It's too long.
We did it.
We did it.
Yeah.
I can't. Even with an intermission,
David, there's even a countdown clock of 15 minutes.
I need like 15 wheeze in that time.
Do you know what I liked about it? I liked that the intermission was burnt into the film.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just they stopped the film and then turned it back on again. It was...
Is this a definite in-cinema watch?
Yeah, I mean...
No. To be honest, I wouldn't say...
See, perfect. I can watch it in the comfort of my own home and pause it whenever I want.
Yeah, to be honest, yeah. You could do that.
So, I mean, it has dropped on digital as well in the States now, so it shouldn't be long before it's over here. But yeah, like, part one of the film is really Laszlo's initial times in America and his initial struggles there. And then part two starts with his wife's arrival. And so then it's telling the story of them and their relationship and where the life is going to take them. And again, like Conclave, this is one of those stories that really doesn't sound very interesting on paper at all. A biopic about a very famous Hungarian, wait a sec, architect and his brutalist architecture style. Because yes, Marie, as you told me the other day, and I didn't realise, this isn't a biopic. He's not real. He's fake.
Which, to be honest, if you remember, like when we reviewed the trailer a few months back, I went on a rant how they chose the most generic name ever because Laszlo is one of the most common names in Hungary. There are quite a few Laszlos in my family. And then you said, oh, no, it's a real story. So then I felt really bad. But now I'm back on that train where they chose the most generic name ever.
David, did you think it was a real story? Or did you have no opinion on it?
I didn't think it was a real story. I thought it might have been based on something loosely, but I didn't think it was a real story.
But even watching it, I forget, because obviously they do scenes from later in his life, and I was like...
Yeah, and they even had the text at the end.
Yeah.
It's like classic of biopics. That's why I thought this was a true story as well.
Yeah. Like, it does do the same thing as Conclave, though, but it has beautiful cinematography, amazing music, like the initial music theme, that dun 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 dun. It's just so... It's like, it's not a lot in the film, but it's such an iconic opening theme.
I mean, yeah, the iconic shot of the Statue of Liberty, like slightly inverted, that's on the poster, so that kind of gave it away. I do admit, like, it's a powerful opening to a movie, but we've seen it. We've already seen it.
I mean, it's like the performance is really good. I mean, it's a weird thing now, knowing it's not real. Because then it makes you think, well, why did they choose to tell these beats of the story and not?
Yeah.
Why does this beat go nowhere? If it's a true story, I can get why you're telling it as is. But it just, I like, when I watched it, when I came out of it, I was just like, well, that was really good. The performances generally were really good. But there was one performance I actually didn't like in the film. I didn't like Felicity Jones's character or her performance. And she's a brilliant actress, don't get me wrong. Oh, yeah. But it felt like she was doing just such a obvious basement style Eastern European character here. It just felt like a caricature in a way.
I mean, to be honest, both of them kind of did. I mean, I'm approaching this movie from like a very unique perspective, being actually Hungarian. So that is like something I've not seen a lot of people talk about. Like, my argument for this movie is that the two leads could have been played by anyone. Like, this is not something like I wasn't watching this movie going, oh, only Adrien Brody could play this part, or only Felicity Jones is playing this part. Like, what my big gripe about this movie is that they should have hired Hungarian actors to play the lead, because something that I did not realize until I watched the movie, that quite a lot of this movie is in Hungarian. And it kind of felt like a base superpower, because like I've spoke about this before on the podcast, where because I live in Portugal, all the subtitles are in Portuguese, and whenever there's a segment in a movie in a different language, I kind of struggle reading the Portuguese subtitles. So when it opened in Hungarian, I was just like, yes, bilingual, baby, I can understand this. To me, it was very obvious that the actors weren't speaking Hungarian. Apparently they took language lessons, and I 100% agree that Hungarian is like one of the most difficult languages out there. Even I have like a pretty bad accent in Hungarian, especially since I no longer live at home.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Let's hear a line.
No, I will maybe we speak some examples as I go through my review.
Okay.
And so like it's been heavily reported that like they used AI to enhance the Hungarian in this movie.
The AI controversy, where do you stand on it?
Right. So like, because I looked into it and I find it very interesting, the person who decided to do this was the editor, who I actually have a personal connection to. Never met the guy personally, but I do know his parents. So, and he is Hungarian. And I just honestly just picture him sitting in the editing studio, getting ready to edit this movie, hearing the Hungarian and going, oh shit.
No.
And here's the thing, like, because it's not bad Hungarian. It's good Hungarian. Like, it's a good Hungarian. It's just, for me, it was just, as someone who's bilingual, was very obvious when there's a moment, like the moment where Guy Pearce asks him where he is, and he says Budapest. That, to me, like, it didn't sound like Adrien Brody's voice. There was another moment where Felicity Jones was telling about her work, and she was saying that she was working for the newspaper, and I think it was the Magyar Nemzet, the name of the newspaper. And when she said that, again, it just did not feel like her voice. But then again, if you look at the other side of this argument, this could be like an Emilia Perez situation where they completely disregard authenticity and just completely butcher the language. And yes, I would have probably been more pissed in this situation.
So they tried. They tried.
They at least tried. And again, one thing you give credit to this movie, because the majority of it was shot in Hungary, and you notice this when you watch the end credits.
You stayed for the credits?
Inverted. Well, I was trying to see his name. But something that I noticed about
they were like that, weren't they?
They were inverted. They were really hard to read.
You're like this after 3.5 hours.
Exactly, after 3.5 hours, and then trying to read the credits like that. But
was that your editor friend that did that as well?
I don't know.
Have a word.
What a dick.
But what stood out to me is like the majority of the names of the crew were Hungarian, which is also great. Maybe it wouldn't have gotten the like attention if like a big name like Adrien Brody didn't play the lead. I still think like they should have hired a Hungarian and a Hungarian bilingual actor. According to my mom, that she says, "Oh, that would have been extremely hard," and then I had to remind her that both of her children are bilingual. It's not that rare that people speak English and Hungarian. And the English didn't need to be perfect. Like, that's the whole point, that he speaks with a heavy accent. At least Laszlo Toth does. I do believe maybe it would have took a while, but I do truly believe they would have found someone to play this role. I never got the call for Felicity Jones's character, but, whatever.
To be fair, with some of what she has to do in a film, you're probably
no. I'm relieved. Yeah, this is not one of those moments where I was like, I could have played that part, or I wanted to play that part. No. And also, I'm a terrible actor. But
with the AI thing, you've researched this probably a bit more than me. So from what I gather, they only used it to tweak the accents.
Yes.
So the actors did do the lines. And again, when there's a lot of pushback against AI, it's from people saying, well, it's taking jobs. But it wasn't here. It was used as a tool to enhance what the actors had already done, right?
Yeah, that's how I read it as well. Because they also tried dubbing, and they said that didn't work at all. Like, where they just completely tried to dub all the lines. But the thing about AI is it needs a baseline. And like, I know at least for Adrien Brody, the editor, Jancho David, he fed his own voice into the program. Maybe that's why it sounds so familiar to me. I don't know. I also like grew up watching the majority of television dubbed in Hungarian. And anyone who like grew up in a like smaller foreign country knows this. When it comes to dubbing, it's usually just one studio that does everything, so everything sounds the same. So maybe that's why it like stuck out to me, because it was like a very common Hungarian voice. Like it just was it's the same. And to be honest, when I say, because my parents went to see this movie and it didn't stick out to them. So this is something maybe that's unique to me.
You're the problem, Marie.
I'm the problem. I don't know. But there were also little things of how like by being bilingual was portrayed on screen that I just didn't think was accurate. Like the first thing that stood out to me was counting, because there's a scene where he's measuring out where he's going to build this Brutalist monstrosity. I'm also not a fan of Brutalist architecture. This movie was not made for me. Another scene that like stood out to me is that when they're reunited and they're arguing in bed, and then it also unfortunately leads to the world's most awkward handjob scene ever put on cinema.
There's way too many handjobs in this film.
There was way too many handjobs. But
too many.
Yeah. Anyway, they were because they're arguing, and then he points this out. He says like, "Oh, if we're gonna argue, I might as well argue in English to practice." No, you always argue in your native tongue, especially to your spouse. Like it's just something that like immediately stood out to me. Like you always argue in your native tongue. Like that's the most curse words in your native tongue.
So they're arguing whilst having a hand job.
No, they're arguing
up to it before the hand job.
Okay, I mean that makes sense.
Makes it awkward is that
because it's an angry hand job.
It's an angry hand job, and his wife is practically on death's door in this moment. Like that's what makes it so awkward. Like it's just
she's not a well lady, David. She's not a well lady when she comes over.
Yeah, because like she
is this something she wanted to do?
Yes.
Oh, okay, that makes okay.
No. She initiates it, and she was also like, at first he was just like, "Oh, I don't want to hurt you because you've literally just come out of a concentration camp," but and she's like really sick from that, yeah. So and malnourished and everything. So yeah, she's like quite close to death's door, and then yeah, it leads to the most awkward hand job scene ever put to screen. And that being said, the second time they're doing sexy time, they do speak in Hungarian. And I did actually appreciate that, because that's another moment where you speak in your native language. If they would have said, "I love you" to each other in English, then I probably would have thrown a fit, because you say, "I love you" in your native language. That scene also was way too long, in my opinion, but
I was not expecting this level of sex in this film either. Yeah.
I mean, sexy times is like just 2 minutes, That's how long it lasts anyway. Just do it on screen.
I mean, this scene was more than 2 minutes.
Well, it felt more than 2 minutes.
It felt.
I'm joking, people. Can we cut that?
No. As you eat your chocolate muffin. No, Dave.
No, you're talking about people being malnourished coming out of concentration camp, and I'm like, oh yeah. That's a.
Moving on. This is a very Oscar movie. It's about America. It's about capitalism, immigration, class systems, all the big themes for the standard American epic. And just to like rub it home, the director is only 36. Fuck off.
Rub it home.
Oh, I didn't even mean that. Oh, God.
No, you're keeping that in.
Keeping it in.
Oh, I've still got time. 36.
But
I've still got
to
time.
be honest, that's the thing. Like, it's not a bad movie. And I admitted this when I saw the trailer, that this is not a movie made for me. But there was nothing special about it. There's like nothing like, "Oh, I've never seen that shot in a movie before," or "I've never seen this story before," or like there was nothing new. This was like cookie cutter Oscar baiting, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like it was meant for the Oscars. It was meant to be this big cinematic experience, but then for that reason, it like kind of fell flat. And then like the most unique thing about this movie is the fact that half of it is in Hungarian, because that is a language that is not commonly seen in cinema. So, and that's the only part that and that's one of the main issues I had with the movie. So,
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it over. I came out of it thinking cinematography brilliant, music really good. Like the craft is really well, and I think what impressed me most is the film cost 10 million and you look at it and you're like, this could easily be 100 million, and I'd believe them in terms of what they do with it. So, and like I say, a £10 million $10 million film shot in Hungary that looks that epic and that, fair play to them. They've done well. It still makes me laugh.
Surely the majority of that would have gone on Brody's wages.
Probably.
Oh yeah, so like 5 million probably. And Guy Pearce probably got like $500,000 for it. So.
What I also researched like the locations of this movie to see if I've like been anywhere. Like they shot the majority of it on a soundstage, like where they shot Poor Things. Like there was now a big one in Budapest, but also because like it's meant to be played in Philadelphia. And I told you guys, like, I immediately knew this was shot in Hungary because, like, Hungary has just... I know a Hungarian tree when I see it. But another reason...
Should be great on Geocacher. What's the GeoGuessr?
GeoGuessr.
Like,
oh, if it's Hungary, I know instantly. Honestly, like, it has a vibe. But what I found was funny. I don't know who said this, either the director or the production design. They were just like, oh, yeah, but we also... One of our motivations... of shooting it as Hungary, that we wanted to get as close to 1950s America as possible. And I just thought that was so funny because yes, the majority of Hungary still looks like the 1950s, like we haven't evolved much. So I thought was another interesting reason to like shoot in Hungary. It's just like, yeah, it still kind of looks like the 1950s in Hungary, in rural Hungary especially.
Now, Marie, are you sufficiently emotionally prepped and prepared for your next review?
No, but we're just going to have to crack on.
Would you say the tears are going to flow?
Yes. My biggest mistake with this movie is not bringing tissues with me. That, like, I think I was sobbing in the first 10 minutes. So yeah, bring tissues.
And the film is?
The film is Flow, which is a beautiful animated movie following a scared little cat as she tries to navigate a changing world. And if you're someone like me whose heart breaks just a little bit every time you hear a cat meow, this is gonna be like that. It's a hard, not a hard watch. Like when I say this is sad, I mean beautiful sad rather than sad. I think us, especially if you grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, every time there's an animal child movie, or any animal in a childhood movie, it's instant trauma. Like we all have that one animal that caused us a lot of trauma. I'm looking at you, horse, in this fucking swamp of sorrows and never-ending story.
Oh,
and then there's Fox and the Hound. There's all
Watership Down.
Oh, Watership Down. My God.
Exactly.
Fuck off, Watership Down.
This is not like
in the
that.
best possible way. Okay, good.
This is not like that. I did kind of expect it to be that because I've got residual trauma from all those childhood experiences. But this is not that. This is beautiful sad. This is story. This cat is very independent, cozy in her home, and then suddenly a flood comes in and floods her home, and she has to escape on a boat. And on this boat, as throughout the movie, we meet several other characters. This entire movie, people have been calling it a silent film. I would actually say that's an injustice to the movie. This movie is a sensory experience, and it is just a movie purely built on emotion. But because there's quiet moments, there's loud music, there's music, there's no dialogue. That's why people have been saying it's a silent movie. All the animal sounds are real, except, which I thought was interesting because I was watching a interview with the director, except for the capybara. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the capybara because I'm immediately going to cry because I fucking love this capybara. But that is the only time they actually took an artistic liberty with the capybara, because originally capybara noises are quite high pitch, and that didn't suit the character. Because this capybara, he's basically that friend, who's always stoned and just sitting in the corner and taking everything in. And then every so now he comes out of his haze and says something extremely profound or just the solution to a problem.
He's Silent Bob.
That's what the capybara is in this movie. Along that, we've got a hoarding lemur who is also really cute and one of my favorite animals, and just a Labradodge, proving that Labradors are just the best dogs ever. And it's just like there's nothing more I can say about this, because I want like people to go into this not knowing anything. Like I went into this without even seeing the trailer. Like I knew it was about a cat. I knew it was a silent film. And like I knew it was like a non-dialogue film. But this movie is the definition of visual storytelling. It is just beautiful. The animation is just on a whole nother level. The majority of this movie takes place on water, and that is the most hardest thing to animate. And what I like about this, and the director said this, is that he's asking the audience to participate and be part of the story. Like it's because like there's no dialogue, like you get the sense of it. And also what I loved about the director as well, another thing that he said is that like if you pay attention you will be rewarded, which I just loved, because we recently talked about this. And I think because I think it was Netflix who like wanted to make their like movies exposition heavy, so like you can tune in whenever you want and know where you are. Like this is
the Rock is now walking into the room.
Yeah, this
Ryan
is the
Reynolds
complete.
Has also walked into the room.
Yeah, this is the complete opposite to that. The director made this movie so you sit, pay attention, and watch. Honestly, if anyone watches Flow and they have their fucking phone out, I'm gonna fucking punch you, because
Jose, you've been warned.
This is a movie you have to, and to be honest, I have to say this is one you have to see in cinemas if you get the opportunity, because it's a movie you have to see with great speakers in the dark and just be immersed in this experience. It's just, yeah, theme wise and story wise is like the overall theme is fear and overcoming fear, but not just overcoming fear but accepting fear, because like this cat, when you first meet her, she is afraid of everything, especially a Labrador who just wants to be her friend. It's so cute. And then like another central theme is like finding the group that you belong with. And it's just seeing like, which is just like finding belonging, which is just so beautiful and is like perfectly encapsulated by the final shot of this movie, that if I think about it in too much detail I will start crying, because oh my god, the final shot of this movie is so beautiful. And like another, like what makes this movie so special is, and the director said this and I completely agree with it, is that there's no antagonist in the movie. This is just like things happen through circumstance because of this.
It's like a hang film.
I don't know that term.
It's like when there isn't like when you're watching a film and you're just enjoying the character's company. Yes,
exactly.
There's no outward forces influencing the character. It's like a slice of life. Boyhood would be a good example. Richard Linklater.
Yeah, exactly. That is it. Which is also, again, surprising because coming from that like childhood trauma where like you always have the mean animal in an animal movie. Like this is not the case. Like there are so that's why I thought it was interesting. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. It's just like not just because like you follow these animals, they're like they did like keep them as accurate and true to the characters, the animals, as possible. Like they're not making something like you would never see a capybara or a cat do, but they added like a sprinkle of whimsy to it, obviously because it's animated, but they're not doing anything like unrealistic. But
are they sailing a ship?
Yes, but that's very like that's what I mean with whimsy. Like there's logic to it. Like
Marie, how do you pronounce the director's name? Because he is Latvian.
And I'm Hungarian. I have no idea. I watched videos to try and guess it, but yeah.
I'm looking at it now, and I'm gonna make it a terrible attempt. His first name is definitely Gintz.
Yeah.
Gintz Zilbaladosis. No, that sounds.
I want to see this.
Yeah.
Gintz Zilbalodis. Gintz Zilbalodis. This is technically a Latvian film, or was it funded? Brilliant. And so it's got 2 nominations at the Oscars. I don't see it winning either. I think Wallace and Gromit is going to win just because everyone watches Wallace and Gromit and loves it. This is like the little underdog that undercat.
Yeah, but you say that, but Disney and Pixar have tied that up a lot for over the years, and they're in the category as well.
And just to make you feel, even worse about your life, David, the director of this is only 30.
Yeah, he's quite young, and this is he's done
second film.
Marie, you still got time.
Not where my career is going. Like,
we'll band together. We'll make a film. I've got a good horror film. It's all there.
It's called The Seagull. It's like The Monkey, but in Folkestone. Yeah. To end this on a happy note, so you don't end up in floods of tears, the director was honoured as Riga's Citizen of the Year last year.
Oh, to be honest, as I said, this is not a sad movie. It's I just love cats. I love cats. Cats speak to me. I always say I love dogs, but cats are my soul. The fact that the protagonist in this movie is a cat, I think that's why it impacted me more. The fact that she is a black cat adds just another level, because I used to volunteer in an animal shelter, and black cats are often the ones never adopted and abandoned because people think they're bad luck, which I think is just so sad, because black cats are just the cutest things in the world. They're just like little floof balls. And this cat, oh, she's such a cat. Like, this is what I mean. Like, they capture it so well. Like, she's just independent, wants to sleep on her nice bed, and then that gets ruined by a flood. And just every time oh god, the meows when she's crying out for help is just it hits. But then they're the animation is so good, because you see her being see her go into cat mode, and where her pupils dilate, and then suddenly playing with someone's tail or something like that. She is a cat. That's what's so genius about it. They capture the whimsy of these animals so well. And what I think is interesting, because you mentioned the director, as I said, this is a movie about coming together as a group, and this is the director's I think second big movie, but it's the first one he actually worked on with as a team. He did all his other previous work solo, and he was just well, in a way, I am the cat, because I worked on all of my previous work. It was just me, and now I'm part of this team trying to bring this movie together, which I thought was really interesting, and just a nice bow to wrap the narrative. And if fucking Emilia Perez wins Best Foreign Film over this, I'm gonna fucking riot. It's...
And on that note, I think it's time to move on before Marie starts burning the effigies of Emilia Perez.
Yeah, watch Flow in cinemas. Bring tissues.
In cinemas.
And chocolate.
And emotional support baked goods. So other things I've watched in February. First of all, there was a film called Strange Darling, and it's been on my list to see for ages. I think you will love it as well, David. It's a twisty-turny, low-budget serial killer thriller starring Kyle Gallner and a star-making turn from Willa Fitzgerald. Now, you might recognise Willa Fitzgerald because she played the younger version of the sister in The Fall of House of Usher, your boy Mike Flanagan. Now, I will say, do not Google or watch anything about this film before you see it. Go in blind and just enjoy where the story takes you. Because I really want to know, especially you, David, if you're going to guess where the story's going. Because I had so many preconceptions about this by trying to stay away from it. So I walked in and thought, it's definitely going to be that. It's definitely going to be that. And it's just really cleverly written. It's a really good film. Go and watch it. I think it might be on... I don't know where it's coming actually in the UK yet. I bought the 4K of it. Next up, we have a film that... Don't waste your time on it. Even if you Will Ferrell's usually funny. I like Reese Witherspoon. No, don't do this to yourself. The film is called You're Cordially Invited. And don't. You shouldn't be invited to it. This is them playing warring wedding hosts, because what happens, they both get the same wedding venue booked on the same day. We were trying to find a film to watch the other weekend, and my mum liked Reese Witherspoon stuff, so I was like, okay, we're going to watch this. My dad just had that look on his face, like, I'm not going to enjoy this. And I was like, well, look, we can't always watch what we want to watch, so we watched this film. Ferrell is the dad who's double booked this wedding venue. Reese Witherspoon, she's the sister of someone who's booked this wedding venue. They completely waste the brilliant Geraldine Viswanathan, the girl from Drive Away Dolls. Look, sadly, this is all too predictable. Even going down a route that is absolutely not warranted for the rest of the film. You think you've seen a bad rom-com? This is a bad rom-com. Ferrell does his usual stick, and honestly, the only highlight of this whole film for me was right near the end when Witherspoon's character calls a baby the C word. And I was like, oh, that's a bit for this film. This doesn't feel like feels like a film you'd watch with your old relations and they'd enjoy it, and you'd be like, when is this going to be over? And then someone calls someone a cunt, and you're like, and like, grandma's not going to like that. That's what I was thinking when I was watching it. Yellow Jackets is back now. Season 3. Season 1 was amazing. Season 2, nothing happened. So far, Season 3 is an improvement over Season 2, because so far, Season 3 is fun again. Story's not really going anywhere, but they've remembered people like these characters, and it's just an enjoyable show to watch when everyone's being really like psychotic. And also Sophie Thatcher's in it from Companion, David.
Didn't you say it had a talking llama in it?
There was a talking llama in a sequence last week, and I was like, I screenshotted it and sent it to you. I was like, this. And
you're like, it's Jump the Shark, boys. Guys, it's Jump the Shark.
It's Jump the Shark. There's a talking llama. Before I realised it may be a dream sequence. And I was like, okay, it's back looking at the shark over the water. Now, this is a show I would never normally watch because it doesn't really appeal to me. And it was called The Road Trip on Paramount Plus because I had a free trial for a week, which now ends tonight. But it stars Emma Appleton, who played Renfrey in The Witcher. And I was thinking, what have I seen her in before? And again, she was in another rom-com on BBC that I watched, again, called Everything I Know About Love. That, again, on paper, not my show. But this one is about a girl, Hannah Rex, who are on a way to a wedding, and they get stuck having to travel in the same camper van to Spain for a friend's wedding. And it's just 6 episodes. I was watching it going, she's really fucking good. Why is this an actress like more well-known? And at the minute, she just seems to be in really bad Paramount Plus shows. She's like, literally, I think she has a contract with Paramount because she's literally been in 3 shows in a row and they've all been largely terrible. This was like slightly better. David, one person who's in this that you'll like, David Johnson from Alien Romulus is in this.
Oh, okay, yeah, the man that's just won BAFTA for
Rising Star Award.
Yeah.
He is in this playing the douchebag best friend, and he's such an unlikable prick in this show. However, I think I put this in the group chat when I was saying about the show. The main girl, Emma Appleton, brilliant, really like just so good, so like relatable in her character, and like the shit she goes through in the episodes and in flashbacks is brilliant. But the boyfriend in it, it's like they went for a third-rate Andrew Scott. Honestly, the guy is as charismatic as a bag of wet potatoes. You're watching this film going, you're watching this show going, why do you see anything in him? You don't. He's terrible. Just like, get on with your life. He's rubbish. That guy over there, look, he was hitting on you. Go talk to him. And there's a really funny scene involving drag queens and Eurovision songs in a pub in Spain. Honestly, if you want something that's an easy watch, it's worth a watch. It didn't sound like a recommendation, but I kind of enjoyed it.
I want to talk about India, Pakistan. You said earlier I could talk about India and Pakistan. But now we're not letting me.
David, you can talk about India and Pakistan. Is this about?
I might not want to now.
Is this about the countries or a?
No, it's a documentary, Neil. It's called The Greatest Rivalry. It's on Netflix, and it's about India and Pakistan. And I wanted to start this by asking Jose, because he's the ignorant American of the group. But I'll ask you all anyway. Can you name me the top 5 most popular sports by fan base in the world? Cricket. Give me a rough idea.
Well, football, cricket.
See, this is where Jose would have got the answers wrong. So,
He's casting utter shade on our American.
I know he's not here. It's fine.
He can't defend himself, David.
Because cricket's not a thing in America, is it? So he'd have been like, "Nah, cricket's not as popular as it is." Cricket is massive. Cricket is the second most popular sport in the world. I mean, football, soccer is obviously the most popular sport with like a good 5 billion followers, but cricket is like 2.5 billion people watch it. It's the biggest sport and the majority of that popularity comes from India, comes from Pakistan, comes from Bangladesh, comes from Sri Lanka. That's where it's like absolutely everybody is obsessed with it. And anyway, this documentary focuses on the rivalry between India and Pakistan, and that when they come together, it is like the cricket world stops. Everybody's got to pay attention to that match because it is so big, and specifically India and Pakistan, the whole fucking country will grind to a halt. Like, that's how big that cricket match is. And I've been to Sri Lanka, and I've seen in Sri Lanka, there'll be people watching cricket matches in a tiny little shop window outside, but there'll be piles of people watching it in this tiny little screen. That's how much they care about cricket, which is a beautiful thing. And I just specifically wanted to talk about this documentary because I thought it was terrible.
I was about to say, what is the angle for the documentary then?
It builds up this one tour that they have in India and Pakistan, which is bridging a divide that's happening. Like, but a political divide that's happening in the country at the moment, because it's the first time that India would have toured Pakistan in a long time, and they're concentrating on this tour, this cricket tour they have, which is a couple of ODIs and a couple of test matches, a few ODIs and a few test matches. And yeah, they just don't do it any justice. They don't talk enough about the political difficulties and like the real the war and the deaths and everything that goes on between India and Pakistan, and all that history there, which is massive in like the hatred towards why there is such a big rivalry. And they don't really hit upon it. I mean, they talk about the beauty of the sport and how sport can bridge these boundaries and can bridge these rivalries, but they don't really talk about why there is this massive rivalry between these two. And that's the whole bloody point of the documentary. You know, they talk about like the matches, and they go through the matches and they say, oh, like, which is cool from a cricketing perspective, because you've got some awesome cricketers being interviewed throughout it. Sehwag's in it, Ganguly's in it. Shahriar Bakhtar gives the best one as the Pakistani fast bowler, I think he still holds the world record as the fastest bowler ever. But as a whole, I just felt like it was a bit flat, a bit boring. I felt like it did cricket an injustice as the second most popular sport in the world. And I feel like everything around cricket is an injustice on what the sport is, because it's the second most popular sport in the world. I feel like it needs something much bigger. I feel like it needs that showmanship, that needs that proper good documentary to showcase the sport properly. You know, it needs that The Last Dance that Michael Jordan and the Bulls got and basketball got.
Drive to Survive.
It needs that Drive to Survive. It does have that. It's not fucking good. I think there is a version of Drive to Survive. It needs that.
Cricket to Wicket.
That's good. I like that. But you know, like even like the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl has 100 million people watch it a year. How much of a show is that? And the whole we know it.
Mostly they're in the States, to be fair.
Yeah. But 100 million people watch it. 2 billion people watch cricket. You know, but
then you say at the start of it, most of them are in India and Pakistan.
Yeah, but the levels of popularity is insane. It's insane. I feel like it deserves a hell of a lot more than what it gets.
David, I'm going to tell you a brief cricket story.
I want to tell you a brief cricket story real quick. I got the privilege of actually seeing an India-Pakistan match. I went to the ICC Champions Trophy in 2017 that was held at the Oval, where Pakistan beat India. And it is the most insane atmosphere between the Pakistanis and Indians. And it was the most wholesome atmosphere as well, because everybody was like, you know, grouped together. It wasn't like a football match. You got to keep people apart because it's like awful. It was wholesome atmosphere, and everyone was just enjoying the cricket as a spectacle. And it was loud, man. It was so loud. It was awesome. It was awesome.
So my brief cricket story, and don't worry, Marie, it's going to be quite brief. I played in our school's cricket team when I was in the second year. I played the first game. I played the last game. We won the championship, but I was out the rest of the season because I had whooping cough. But there's still a picture of me in the paper holding the trophy, and I played 2 games. I kind of feel like a big footballer who like doesn't get a lot of games, but they still get a championship at the end of the season just because they were a squad member. That was me. And also, I didn't understand half the rules, and I got the trophy, and I was in the paper.
I think there's a picture of me as a baby with just De Silva, the Sri Lankan batsman, holding me, who's like arguably one of the best batsmen of all time. Definitely one of Sri Lanka's best. Sangakkara De Silva is up there.
Would that be like Beckham holding you as a baby?
Well, if you're a Sri Lankan, yeah.
Okay, Sri Lankan Beckham. Well, from Sri Lankan Beckham to our spoiler section, and there's no segue there at all.
This is your spoiler alert.
From Doctor Strange and Black Phone director Scott Derrickson comes an Apple original movie that dropped on, of all days, Valentine's Day. And it's kind of apt, because The Gorge is a weird, strange mishmash of romance and monster movie. So, we have very good-looking snipers, Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. They are sent to a mystery outpost overlooking a cavernous gorge, where they'll be stationed for a year by themselves. And there's an outgoing soldier called JD, played by the brilliant Shopi Dirisu, who was in Gangs of London in the UK. He's a great actor. He tells them, you're here to keep what is ever in the gorge there. And of course, he says the gorge is the gates of hell, and you're the gatekeepers, or something like that. So, nice place to set a romance movie. Well, Marie, first, what did you think?
First of all, I'm very dyslexic, so every time I see the title, I read The George, and that is a very good gay club in Dublin. So that's where my brain goes. And to be honest, that little anecdote is, I think, more interesting than the whole movie itself. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It was
aggressively fine.
It's just, it's like, it's a movie. Yeah, you put on late at night, like when you're too tired and you don't need to concentrate. It's fine. It's like, it's not. It's middle of the road. Like, yeah.
David, thoughts on The Gorge?
Felt like it was great until they went into the gorge.
Yes, my exact thoughts.
And then and then I just didn't care about anything. It was like they went into the Upside Down with weird Pirates of the Caribbean tree looking people.
Evil Groots, I put in my notes.
Evil Groots.
The second you see them, you're like, oh, because like, you know from immediate something's down there, and then you see them and you're like, oh, that's the design they're going with.
that's it. Evil tree people. Okay.
I mean, even the reason why they're there, I mean, like, I get it. It's a reason. I just didn't care.
I called it, though. I was just like, failed army experiment, like the second the movie started.
My other big issue with it was the trailer.
Yeah.
Like, the trailer was just awful.
I didn't mind the trailer.
Nah, the trailer wasn't great.
What specifically?
I could watch the trailer and start the film bang on when they fall into the gorge, and I wouldn't have missed anything.
But you would have missed the flirting and the start of the relationship.
Got it in the trailer, mate.
You get that in the trailer.
Got it in the trailer, mate.
True.
I could start the film halfway through and watch the 3-minute trailer and know exactly what I wouldn't have missed anything.
But then if you started the film halfway through, you'd have actually missed the better half of the film.
So the best half of the film's in the trailer.
I was really hoping there would be a reason why they're both hot. Like, it's just
Miles Teller, buddy, he's had a glow up.
Yeah, I'm not really into him, but
neither am I. I like him in Whiplash, and that's about it. I've never been a big fan of him. I mean, I liked him in Top Gun Maverick, but he's like a side character. But in this, I was there for it. I quite liked him. Not gonna lie. You weren't like, yeah.
When I first saw the trailer, because I was just like, there's no way like these two people have never met in the entirety of like this gorge thing being there. And I was just like, they purposely chose hot people so they like make love and then that triggers something. But no.
I said to...
Exactly!
I said like there's they have so the thing why one of the main reasons I think why they fell in love was they have competitive parts.
Yes.
These two characters. And that, I mean, in Hollywood that's a given. If you've got one person that's got a part and you've got another person that has a different part,
and they're extremely
they're gonna
attractive.
fall in love. Yeah, I mean,
they're gonna bone.
I mean, Anya Taylor-Joy got to bring out her Eastern European accent after the New Mutants again and work on it a little bit more. Where was she supposed to be from this? Was she supposed to be like Belarusian or something?
Lithuania,
sorry, that was
wasn't it?
I forgot. I knew it was. And then Miles Teller's random name generator. His name is Levi Kane. Which just sounds like
America. Marine.
Fuck yeah.
And what annoyed me is like you've got Soapy Deriso, the English guy, and he's a brilliant actor. He's so good in Gangs of London. And then I was like, he's not going to be in it for long now, is he? And you can call almost every beat. He's like lays out the story and then gets shot in the head. You're like, oh, come on, you deserve more, Soapy. He's so good. David, so you said about the trailer. I quite like the trailer only because it wrong-footed me a little bit in the way the film progressed. Because you see the trailer, you see you're not supposed to make contact, and then you see the flirty little bit and the dance and all that. And then you see him going over the gorge, but then he falls in. So as I'm watching the film, I'm like, when he goes to go across the gorge the first time, I was like, oh, this is where he falls into the gorge. And then he landed, and probably you guys saw it coming. I didn't. I was like, but he fell in the gorge in the trailer. He hasn't fallen in yet. That's going to be, so it's going to be later on the way up. On the way back, but that I don't know. But
the trailer has them in the gorge.
I know they end up in the gorge in the trailer, but you don't see him go over there with her. You see him on separate sides in the trailer. You don't actually see. So when he went over, I thought, okay, he falls in on the way over to there, and then she comes to rescue him before they've even met. That would have actually been better, though. To be fair,
No, they gotta get the sexy times in there first.
That's to be honest, agree with you, and I also read the trailer that way, and also that's another thing. Like, I generally thought the order of it was like weird. Like, I thought like their first attack from zombie weird Groot people, like I thought that was just a weird position. I thought like she should have gone attacked first, and then they started the flirtiness, but the flirtiness happened before for the attack. I thought I don't know, I thought the beats were a bit like out of sync. Like, I actually
really quite liked that, how they sort of connected a little bit first.
Yeah, I thought that was my favorite bit of the film.
When that first attack happened, that was my favorite bit of the film as well, Neil. Because they were sort of fighting each other's people. So they were concentrating on each other. They weren't caring about themselves in those sort of moments. They were caring about each other's, trying to get each other's people. And I quite liked that.
Sorry, but that also points out a flaw in the movie, because basically they're protecting each other else's walls because the guns, the range thingy.
Yeah.
So you would think before, because this gorge thing, how many years has it been there? Like 40, 50 years?
I was kind of dozing off at that point.
Exactly.
World War II. That was after World War II, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you don't think like the two would have never made contact if they're protecting the gorge? It just didn't really work, because they're basically in each other's eye line the entire time while rescuing each other.
What they could have done, they could have actually then found that people had contacted in the past and used that as a bit of backstory, which would have.
I don't get why they couldn't have contact.
Well, I'm assuming because one was America and one was Lithuania.
So. Like, if there's there's a secret alliance between like the nations. Why does that need to be? Why can't you still communicate with the other person? Why does that need to be?
See, that's why I thought they were purposely set up, because if you tell someone not to do something, they will do it.
Especially in films.
In films, exactly. And also there was just like convenience, like in the plot, like
if you're gonna kill him as well afterwards, like what does it matter? Like if your plan's to kill them.
Just send someone else in.
They're not going to leak secrets, are they? So what?
I don't know, but also I found it just like he had to build a grappling hook to get to the other side, but she just had one in her shed. Just like
make her work. Make him work for it.
But then why did she go over first? Why did she make him like build like a bazooka thingy, like, and go over?
I think he wanted to surprise her, didn't he? He was being all romantic. He picked her flowers. He built a little rocket so he could go see her.
But she was just like, I wish you could be here. But it's like, girl, you could have gone over there.
The chess scene was written before they cast Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, and the drum scene.
And the drum scene as well. And because when I watched that, I was like, oh, come on. They're just taking a piss here. But like, I thought it was funny. And I liked the flirting to the Ramones. I was like, but because there was 2 Ramones songs, but then they changed it. I was like, why set it a second one and set a precedent with it and then change it to something else? You either do one and then change it. Like I think it's the OCD thing there. Where you can't just do 2 and then go to something else.
I feel like if they'd have kept it as one, I'd have remembered it.
Exactly.
I don't remember either of those songs.
Oh, the first one, Blitzkrieg Bop. I can't remember the second one now because it was only 2 and not 3 or all. But if it was 1, I still remember Blitzkrieg Bop. Honestly, the second, like we said earlier, the second they got into the gorge, I didn't care. It looked crap as well. It looked like a lesser Annihilation.
It looks like the Upside Down from Stranger Things. If it was
set TikTok filter.
And if it was like, has anyone played Dark Souls or Bloodborne?
Yeah,
it was like a Bloodborne-esque level, but with a Stranger Things filter and over it.
And the whole thing of trying to create super soldiers, come on, we know that's only worked well once, and it's called Captain America. And then I remember when you watched it, Mira, you was like, why didn't you tell me about the spiders?
Yeah, the skull spiders. I mean, to be honest, they did look pretty shit. Like, but when they were...
Their scariness was lessened because they look shit.
Yeah, they did look fake, but I mean, yeah. But when they first, like, drop, when you see them in the corner, I'm like, ah! But then after a while, I'm just like...
My wife has a nervous disposition and she jumps like hell at that drop. She knew it was coming and she still jumps.
I'm the same. Even when I know it's coming, I jump. Like,
well, and then of course, the end of the film. We know they're going to survive. I mean, I wish they kind of didn't. It would have at least been a bit more interesting. But
yeah,
I was like, and then at the end, I'm just like, okay, so we're back in the rom-com again now. Like at the end, where top world-class assassin, Draza, is now working as a waitress in France somewhere.
Looks like the south of France. Nice place.
Nice place, yeah. It's probably all CGI and green screen, let's be honest. Most of that, bizarrely, was filmed in England as well, of the film, from what I read. Just all on stage, all green screen.
With the ending, what didn't make sense to me is, so she's checking if she's still contaminated, like if she's brought contamination from...
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why didn't they leave that as like a suspenseful...
For the sequel?
A cliffhanger, yeah. To say whether he has that. You know, because they just don't reference him. He's just there, and then they have a little smooch, and then they're dead. And then no, not dead. Wait, they don't die. I don't know why I said and then they're dead. And then the film's dead. And then it's over. The film's over.
I thought by the time they'd escaped, it was so many days, and you would have been shown after so many days.
Yeah, 5 days.
Yeah,
but they don't leave that as any sort of cliffhanger. They don't leave you leave it in any sort of like suspenseful way.
There's no point to it. Yeah, there's just
they could have ripped off the thing and had them both there, going, well, we better give it a couple of days, and then look at each other.
That's it. That's a better ending. Or just have them kiss, and then have it be like ask the question, and then cut to black. Anything like that. You know,
we've just made the film better, David. We've made it better.
But they didn't do that. They didn't have that ambiguous ending or anything like that.
We don't need to go for an ambiguous one. This is the ending of the podcast, David.
I think
it's been a bit of a downer today, hasn't it? It's been like tears.
I think it's missed Jose. It's missed his gorgeous face in the corner.
Jose's
smile.
Yeah,
he's always the bottom of my screen. He's just
Mr. Florida Sunshine himself, bringing sunshine to the podcast.
Yeah, just us. Like Brits and an Irish, it just doesn't work. Like, we're just downers.
Yeah. Right. Well, if you haven't put your head in an oven, that's all the time we've had on this week's episode of the We Needed Roads podcast. I'd like to thank my two co-hosts. David, where can people find you on the socials?
You can follow us on We Needed Roads, which is on Instagram. You can follow me on Long D on Blue Sky. And let you think, let your mind wander.
Is that your pirate name? Long D Silver. And enough of that. Marie, where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me under Life on Mars on the interwebs. That's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and you can check my Civilized podcast out, which is 2 Girls, 1 Reasonable Cup, even though that title is not civilized at all.
And you can find me at NeilG78 on Threads, which Threads is doing really well at the minute. Also NeilG78 on Blue Sky, and of course at Needed Roads on Twitter, because I forgot the we, and yes, we will always call it Twitter. And don't forget, tune in, subscribe, follow us. If this is your first time listening to us, we're sorry, but also come back for our Severance podcast, because everyone seems to be loving our Severance podcast, and we are doing weekly updates, a week after updates, because we like to marinate on the episodes. We like to think about them and look at theories and figure it all out. What does it mean? And I think as it's Friday's recording this, we're all going to watch Severance straight after this, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, someone's already watched it.
Oh, I can't leave the house today. I have to wake up in the morning. I can't go on the internet without it. My Threads crew are it's all spoilers, man. It's all like Threads is all like severed Threads. It's all it is now.
It's crew. And it's a posse. There's a Severance posse now.
I got a Severance posse. Yeah. You don't mess with the severed Threads posse. And on that note, we'll see you next time.
We Needed Roads.